Alrighty, let's get this party started. It is approximately 5 minutes past 12 o'clock in the east and 5 after 9 in the west. So, those of you in the east, thanks for joining us on your lunch break, and those in the west, thanks for starting your day with us. Welcome to the first ever DJB Radio New Year's Town Hall. The purpose of this presentation is to familiarize you with our software line, get you up to speed on where we're at in terms of new product development, and then open up the floor for a discussion that I hope will be robust and straightforward about where things are at with automation, what your needs are as the end users, and kind of where we're going with development. We're looking to not only take in ideas from this presentation to be able to help shape our future development, but also to inform people as to where we're at. So our panel today, myself, Adam Robinson. I'm the Vice President of Operations for DJB Radio. I'm also a broadcast engineer and have spent the better part of my career specializing in automation. With us as well is Ron Paley, the founder of The Feast, who is a radio automation trailblazer. Ron started his automation career when he took a chance on a program called Media Touch back in the 80s. It was the first system to use music on drive, and I think most of you know Ron's rich history. He purchased DJB, or as it was known at the time, Digital Jukebox in 2012, and we've continued to strive to create great radio software at affordable prices for everybody in the market. Finally, Jim Hammond is with us. Jim is our Vice President of Sales. Many of you will know him from his many years with Scott Studios, Google Automation, Wide Orbit, and for the last couple of years here with us at DJB. So without further ado, we'll jump into just showing you a bit of our product line, give you some of the highlights of our few pieces of software, and then from there we'll open up the floor to discussion. So here we go. DJB Radio Spider. Spider is our most popular piece of software. It is in use in literally thousands of stations around the world. I'm going to let Ron Paley jump in and tell us a little bit more about some of the features. Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, depending where you are in this big country of ours. Really pleased to have you join us today. We're going to talk about one of the first products we invented at DJB and trying to build a low-cost problem solver for radio. And that happened to be Radio Spider. And in simple terms, it's a pick, fetch, then download local audio software solution. It works so well that really now it's become a radio standard for downloads of weather reports, countdown shows, news reports, hour-long programs, ag news, voice tracks, just about any audio content you can think of. Anything published on FTP, on RSS, on Dropbox, Google Drive, BoxNet, and many more. And you know, it can even check incoming email. If you have an email for people who produce morning shows like Sunday morning religious broadcast, Spider can fetch the audio off your email and park it in production where it can be imported into your system. Now, Spider also emails you on success of downloads and for any failure with auto retrying. And you know, it's also multitasking. I have a story. When we invented this product, we had a user who said, you know what, I'm downloading 4 one-hour-long shows simultaneously. I said, really? What do you have for hardware? XP, Windows, RAM, what do you got? 2 gig. Well, all unattended, downloading 24/7. And I said, really? And yes, it's proved itself as a real rock-solid, hands-off solution. It removed the need for having someone sitting at the station being responsible for manually downloading every hour, every day, and trying to find content that radio stations desperately needed. Now, DJB added some extra features to this downloading feature. And once the audio file is downloaded, Spider can automatically groom the audio to make it fit for import into most automation systems out there. So in simple words, it's universally friendly. It's in use around the world, including major operators such as the BBC, Locally, the Texas Farm Bureau use it, and most of their affiliates, and countless radio networks. The ideal operation scenario for you, if you install Radio Spider, is make sure it's on a standalone computer. Don't put it on your automation system, because this thing is just heavy, and focused on downloading. So it could tie up your workstation. So make sure it has its own space. And again, one copy of Radio Spider can easily serve a cluster and a multitude of stations. And finally, the real good news, it still costs only $3.95, and this includes DJB tech support. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for giving us an overview of Radio Spider. Next on the list here is our satellite program. Now, DJB Radio Automation is sort of the workhorse of our platform. This automation program was developed out of the very popular DJB Radio 2. It has become very popular with stations that are satellite fed, as well as smaller market stations in places that don't really have the budget to be able to buy big automation, but need all the features. I'm going to let Ron take that away as well and tell you a little bit more about satellite.
Okay, well, the innards of DJB Radio satellite, and again, this is the same product as music stations use it. Going back to its origins, it comes from the best of the best features adopted by proven models of satellites, such as Computer Concepts, such as Media Touch for news talk, and also Dave Scott's SS32 for music playout. Now, just to not boast, but all these systems came after our first Media Touch at the NAB in Washington, and installations at Westinghouse Radio, if anyone remembers Westinghouse Radio. DJB Radio's built-in scheduler and log editor generate a 24-hour log that easily transitions from satellite to Live Assist, from Live Assist to music, from music to news talk, to play out of a live stream. All these formats are supported in one daily 24-hour schedule. Then our groundbreaking product, DJB Sports and Remotes Log, it runs satellite networks that are dish-fed or internet streamed, or you have live and local sportscasts. Once automation and audio switchers are set up, these all run without anyone in the air studio. And that includes running baseball with rain delay, extra innings. All this is taken care of for you. All you have to do is print money. Trust me, we have many users that said this is a game changer, a money maker. We interface with broadcast tools and all the IP-based systems like WheatNet, Axia, and SAS. It comes in with easy setup for logic commands and satellite. And there's also 2 demos available, a 90-day music demo and also a 30-day demo for satellite. So please consider us for any of these type of applications. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Moving on to our next product is DJB Radio Studio. Now, Studio is the evolution of some of our previous products that you might know as Button Box or Button Broadcaster or iBroadcaster. We rolled all the best of it into one. Now, this was originally designed for podcasting and internet radio, but we found that many of our users were starting to use it for remotes. And one of the reasons for that is because of the 10-channel built-in virtual mixer, plus one-click record and edit. There's also a playlist and Cartwall built-in scheduler. It's great if you want to send it out to your morning guy who's working from his home studio, because it gives him that feel of having automation, pardon me, without actually having to have an automation system. It's bright, it's colorful, it's today, it's fresh, and the mixer is fantastic if you have that on a touchscreen laptop. So one screen or two, put it on a laptop, plug anything you want into Windows to use as a sound device, and you're off to the races with DJB Radio Studio. Logger. Now, this is an interesting product. I mean, loggers aren't particularly interesting, but this is one of the things that attracted me to DJB in the first place. We standardized on this at the Evanoff Group in Canada many years ago, simply because of a couple of key features. Number one, the ability to be able to stream and skim and record URLs just like you can with local audio. But also the ability to be able to interface with WheatNet. It's a custom logic interface for WheatNet that essentially turns that computer into a blade. The back end of it, HTML-based setup and monitoring. There's email alerts if something fails. We call it the most powerful logging software on the planet, and we hope that you'll agree with us. That's what the main interface looks like, so that you can see what all the flashing signals are. But the real core of this is how you can separate out each stream that you're recording. So when you separate out those streams, and you can give people very granular security access to the back end of the logger, so that, for instance, if you have a salesperson who should be monitoring the competition and they only need to be able to listen to one or two channels, you can specify that they can only listen to those channels, read only, they can't delete anything, they can't break anything. Packaged with a full HTML interface for doing all of your programming, so the logger can sit in your rack room and you can be working, setting up new streams at home, and you can monitor all of that audio real time through the browser as well. The last product we're going to talk about is our newest addition to the group. Most of you are familiar with our Zone product. Zone is something that we released in 2019 and took it to NAB and won an award, which is quite a coveted award. They don't really hand those out to automation programs very often. Over the past couple of years, we've been working to completely rebuild Zone from the ground up and make it so that it's designed for multi-market, bigger groups. And a way to, sort of centralize your operations while at the same time giving you the flexibility to be able to share and distribute audio around your entire group or locally in a cluster. Or, hey, you know what? It's even good for a single station in a single market. It has all kinds of tools built into it. Some of the things that we have cooked into this include our usual very bright, colorful, graphical interfaces. We have a live mixer built into the on-air system now so that you can actually bring in background sources. You can connect a codec to it. We also have the ability to be able to do multi-market distribution using our Courier program. We can create regional groups or share assets globally with DJB Courier. Courier really does a nice job of that for us. And then in the background, our little server widget that runs on a machine has the ability to be able to have multiple Courier folders. Courier is a product that allows you to put content into the system automatically, add it to the database. Those Courier folders make it so that you can actually send audio to multiple markets. So it's really a very simplified way of doing this. We're also very light on hardware resources. You'll notice here that I have a couple of little mini computers, a couple of laptops, and a tower that could be used as a server. It's all Windows 11 ready. Runs on Windows 10, but it's all perfectly designed for Windows 11 because we all have to make that transition this year. And we are really proud of what we've accomplished here. And I'm going to turn things over to Jim Hammond to tell you a little bit more about how this stacks up against some of the other competitors in the market and some of his thoughts on DJB ZONE Wide Area. Jim?
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it very much, and a good presentation. I've been around the automation world for, I'm going to guess, a little bit more than 30 years. I started off as a customer with Scott Studios. And when I saw what they did, I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. And I was kind of tired of managing radio stations. I was a group general manager in Maryland. And I thought, time to make a break. I had an engineering background since, well, I'll tell you when, you're going to know how old I am, but got my first class in 1971, which is long since not worth the paper it's printed on because the FCC is deregulated. But anyway, I got into the automation business with Scott Studios, and I was there 8.5 years. So they did, and I noticed a marked similarity to other programs, which we'll get to, and I think it's been referred to as Ron being the kind of the brains behind the almost uniform look that many automation systems have. But I didn't really put two and two together. But knowing some of those things, I moved from Scott Studios. They were purchased by a company called DMark, and DMark was entering audio ads into the system and allowing people to barter the automation system. DMARC was picked up by Google. So I was a Google employee for 3.5 years. I was the director of sales for them, and also the international director of sales. So I got to see a lot of international radio stations and playout systems, which is what they're called in the rest of the world. Google was subsequently picked up by Wide Orbit. And Wide Orbit, I think everybody knows Wide Orbit. It's one of the premier programs in playout or automation, certainly in the United States. And as the international director of sales, I was able to lay some eggs in some foreign countries as well. So we've got the system in a number of places around the world. After COVID, I made a transition. Went from Google to, well, I'm sorry, not Google, but went from Wide Orbit. Took a little time off after COVID and went with Radio Cloud, which was kind of a new venture. They asked me to onboard them into the country, and I did that. And all the while, I had been talking to Adam Robinson about his automation systems, and I found them to be especially full-featured, ready, actually better than many other systems that I had seen, and certainly as good as the best and most expensive systems that I had seen. So I asked Adam to kind of keep me in mind if anything were to happen. And a little bit later on, after I finished onboarding Radio Cloud, I let Adam know that in a few months I will be available if anything takes place. And he brought me in. And since I've been on the inside of DJB, I've been able to see how well suited their software is to compete with just about any software anywhere. I haven't really noted any deficiencies, anything that it can't do. It does remote station transfer files and file sharing and audio sharing. It also has the ability to provide a very, very easy graphical interface. It excels at satellite, and it's as modern as any software out there. The things you don't have to put up with are really high prices. This is, I don't want to say a value price, but it is a very valuable system at a great price. And also with regard to the things that are ongoing with some automation systems, you'll note that support is far less than some of the companies that have hundreds of employees to support. So we're a little smaller, much more agile with a fully featured automation system that can compete with anybody out there. Really light on hardware, as Adam was saying. You saw the mini computers, and we don't necessarily recommend laptops for the control room, but you can certainly operate smaller systems, or as a matter of fact, there's one in Iowa that uses a laptop to do DJB Studio for different day parts. So the systems, all told, with DJB are flexible. They can all work together, and again, the price point is not to be dismissed. So it's a great product, and I'm really tickled to be a part of DJB. And I thank Adam and also Ron Paley for letting me come in and be a part of a great, successful organization. I see lots of people that I've come to know quite well. Tim Dench. He's there waving. David Callan, just met David the other day via phone, and also Todd McNamara. Todd's one of our new customers, and really we talked quite a few times, and it's great to see. So hi, Todd. Wait there. Anyway, Adam, that's about all the good stuff I can say about you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for thanks for pumping my ego and Ron's ego and making us both feel good about ourselves. Jim, you're pretty nice yourself.
That's all right. I don't want that reputation to spread. So
Yeah, so we're not going to turn this into a huge sales pitch for Wide Area. Those of you who have been following us for the last year or more have known what we've been putting into this. So if you'd like to see a full demo, there's a bit of an explanation video on our YouTube channel right now. But we'd also be happy to book a Zoom demo specific to Wide Area so that we can show you some of the unique features and how it differs from the wide orbits and RCSs and ENCOs of the world. And again, we're not pricing this one out of the market. We're very competitive. We're aware of the fact that one of the biggest pain points for customers of some of the bigger systems is how much they're being charged for support. Now that the top two automation systems in the market have been purchased by venture capital organizations, the bottom line is more important than providing good automation. So, costs are skyrocketing. And the word that we've heard on the street, not to put anybody down, is that support is dwindling a little bit. So we're here to provide an alternative that is both cost effective as well as properly supported. And something else that DJB is able to offer our customers, and those of you who have worked with us for a long time know this, we are in a position to be able to move quickly on adding features, changing development priorities to match customer needs, whereas other companies may have to take 2 or 3 years to be able to make those changes. So before we move into the Q&A, I just wanted to throw a couple of discussion points out in front of everybody. One of the things that we're finding when we're talking to our customers and when we're working with new customers and we're working with new sites is that there's definitely a lack of good technical support in stations. I know that engineering is one of those things that's expensive and can sometimes be overlooked, or you're on a contract with somebody and they're not around very often. We find it critically important to make sure that when you're starting with a new system, whether it's ours or a different one, that you enlist somebody to be the site champion, somebody who can really take the reins of putting that software in, because there has to be a partnership between the automation company and the end user. There has to be somebody there who understands the system more than just, they can press play or they can schedule a log. So really, really important to assign somebody to that role. Even if they're not an engineer or an IT person, they could be somebody in programming, they could be somebody in operations, but somebody who just takes on the responsibility of learning how the system works. Secondarily to that, and this is a really important key factor in working with any system, let alone automation, is talk to the people who use it. Talk to your traffic people, your music people, your producers, your operators, your on-air hosts. Find out what their pain points are. Find out what it is that they are struggling with and find ways to help them. And this is something else that we can offer is if you come back to us and say, okay, we've got an operator who's really struggling with, this particular portion of their job. Is there something that we can do for them? We might be able to help them out with that. Don't overcomplicate things. Automation doesn't need to be complicated. It really is there to provide audio and content that should run without a whole lot of human intervention. It doesn't have to be the little man behind the curtain. It's truly simple and it just works. And we're able to help train people and explain that, kind of demystify it a little bit. And finally, reliability. One of the key issues that we find out there is reliability. And that requires planning and teamwork. It's not a reliable system is not just the automation provider comes and drops it on your desk and says, okay, it's up and running, see you in a year. Or, the next time you need to call us. There needs to be a plan in place to make sure that that software is running effectively, that it's running per the letter of the law, laid down by the automation provider, but also that somebody's actually taking the time and the effort to make it work properly, so that, there isn't a lot of finger pointing back and forth. We see that a lot. We really do see that a lot. It's actually quite disappointing how sometimes customers will just lose their minds and start screaming at us and telling us that our system's broken and it doesn't work. Well, the fact of the matter is that they're not using it the way that it was intended to be used. And despite our best efforts to explain to them that, it should be done this process should be done this way, or that, things are meant to work in a certain fashion. Sometimes people just don't have the patience for that. So it's really important, again, just to make sure that you've got one person on your site that is able to provide that level of primary support, because they understand how the system works. We're not expecting them to know all the back end details of how a system works, but I know many of you that I see on this call today are the people who have taken on that responsibility for your site, for your systems. And you can probably agree with me that it makes life easier when people come to you instead of everybody calling the support department of whoever your provider is. So at this point, we're going to open up the floor to any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself if you've got a question for us, anything specific about our software, anything general about automation software. Anybody out there got anything they want to jump in with?
Hey, Adam, I neglected to say hi to Ron Comden, longtime friend from Canada. So, hi, Ron.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Elijah.
Yes, we're sort of the new customers, the new kid on the block, and I really do appreciate your support, because sometimes the manual, there's a lot of things that's not in the manual, a lot of minute things, and so we call in, and you guys have been a big help on that. And so let me throw out a few questions here. Number one, how soon do we need to upgrade from Windows 10 to 11? Also, can DJB operate with any switcher rather than the switcher that comes with the system? And the RDS, in order for the RDS little small black logo to come up, you've got to restart the automation. And is there a way where you can shut that on and off without restarting the automation?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the RDS question. You should be able to relaunch your metadata manager from your on-air system menu. And if that is not working, then feel free to get in touch with Dave Cook about that, and he'll help you through that process. The Windows 10 upgrade is an interesting kind of elephant in the room right now. And to be honest with you, it wasn't until we started prepping for this call that we started having conversations about this internally, and realizing that even in our own test beds, and even in our own offices, and even in our own infrastructure, 90% of our computers are running Windows 10 and are not able to run Windows 11. So here's the long and the short of Windows 10 end of life. In October, I think it's October 14th is the date, Microsoft is going to stop providing free support for Windows 10, which means you won't be getting security patches, which means you won't be getting update. And Lord knows there's going to be, a bunch of exploits that they're not going to patch, or that they haven't patched already, that hackers are going to try to take advantage of. And this is going to be very similar to the transition from XP to 10, about a decade ago, where we just have to accept that the operating system is now obsolete. The hardware that runs that operating system is obsolete, and we have to move forward. Now, Windows 11 is not as much of a departure from Windows 10 as 10 was from XP. 11 is built on the same architecture as 10. There are a couple of sort of background ways around it so that you could potentially run Windows 11 on a Windows 10 platform, but we don't recommend doing that. From our standpoint, all of our software, the most current versions of all of our pieces of software, are designed to run on Windows 11. And as long as our customers maintain their support contracts with us, we'll help them through that transition. Whether or not you're willing to take the risk of leaving a Windows 10 machine running past the end of life date that is connected to the internet and therefore potentially vulnerable, that's a choice that you're going to have to make. It's really not on us to tell you what to do one way or another, but it's also not on us to have to, handhold people because of something that Microsoft is doing. So with that said, Elijah, When we cross that bridge, if you buy new hardware that can run Windows 11, we'll make the transition of your software from your existing machines to the new machines as part of your support contract. So I hope that answers that question and that satisfies everybody with that one. In the meantime, we're going to see what happens. I would imagine that as we get closer to the date, there's going to be a hue and cry from the world to Microsoft to say to them, listen, like, we can't afford to update, hundreds of thousands of computers around the world simply because you decided that anything that's older than an 8th generation processor is too old, when everybody knows that Windows 11 will run perfectly on it. So we'll have to see what Microsoft's going to do, but generally they've been inflexible about these changes in the past, so we'll have to see where we go. Now, you brought up the idea or the topic of switchers. So we test against Broadcast Tool switchers. We are a partner of Broadcast Tools. We've been using their devices for many, many, many years. The simple answer is it's best to stay with a Broadcast Tools device or an audio IP system like a Wheatstone or an Axia or SAS. However, if your switcher device is able to take a serial string from our automation, it might work. I'm not going to guarantee it, but it might work. In most cases, we're able to talk to the device, but we're not able to read information back from the device. Broadcast Tools are very inexpensive. They're readily available, and that's why we recommend them and ask people to use them. If you want to do something different or you want to do something that's bigger, then look for an AOIP system. Again, Wheatstone or Axia are the two big ones on the market. And see if something that they have can work for you. Can I ask you specifically, though, Elijah, why you're thinking of something different than Broadcast Tools?
Well, it's just that I just wanted to find out what the options are, because we was having some problems. I think you're aware of that. And so we decided to get an internal sound card, which we got from Amazon. It was about $60, and it was on sale, and it is excellent. And so now we do not have to use the Broadcast Tools external sound cards. And really what I like is to keep the audio chain very simple with less components as possible. So we've been using this internal sound card now, and it's been working perfectly. It has a lot of features with it, equalizers and audio editing. And I was amazed at what it can do concerning the price from Amazon. So, well,
please share that with us. Maybe you could put the make and model number into the group chat so everybody can see that.
Okay.
What Elijah is referring to is USB audio devices, have become very inexpensive, but they're relying on Windows Direct Sound to be able to manage things like sample rate changes and audio type changes. We have run into some issues lately with all audio connected to Windows devices, certainly since this time last year, and maybe even earlier than that. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably come across some of these issues in other parts of your world, where you find the system getting a little sluggish when it's trying to change a sample rate from 44.1 to 48K on the fly. And the way around that is to pick one and stick with it. Have your whole system be 44.1 or have your whole system be 48K, and that includes every piece of audio that's in your library. We are continuing to work on workarounds for that, trying to figure out some way if we can develop around this issue that Microsoft has created for us, where their direct sound drivers are not, they're not making that transition efficiently anymore. And we find that we don't like to point the finger at other vendors or other manufacturers, but what we're finding is that the drivers for various sound devices out there are not being kept up to date, and therefore these bugs are probably popping up all over the place, but the work isn't being done. So pick a sample rate. Do you want to be 48K? Do you want to be 44.1? For years and years and years, and those of you who have been around as long as I have or longer know that, everything was 44.1 because that's what CDs were. 44.1, 256K, that was your sample rate. But now that everything is moving towards digital, Not only are we starting to see a trend towards things defaulting to 48K, but they're defaulting to 48K at 32-bit, whereas everything that we'd had before that was 16-bit. So there's just a whole bunch of different things that are changing in the way that we're handling digital audio, they're kind of being forced on us by different manufacturers and just by the evolution of computer-based audio. So just something to keep in mind. When I do chats or do presentations, it's certainly one of the things that I highlight, that you need to pick a sample rate and stick with it. And you need to go back through your entire library. This is something that is absolutely critical. A lot of our digital libraries, especially if you're using compressed audio and you've been sort of gathering things for many, many years, even decades, a lot of the encoding that was used to create those files is now obsolete. I mean, we've seen things like 32 kilohertz at 4-bit files that just make Windows explode when they see things like that. So there are programs out there that allow you to upsample, but it's also good to just sort of go through, police your brass, as I like to say. That's a military term, and just make sure that the audio that's in your library is up to date and at the very least is running at a sample rate and a frequency that's not going to give Windows a heart attack. Elijah, thank you very much for your input, and thank you as always for being a loyal customer. We really do appreciate it. Is there anybody else?
It's good seeing your face, and you all sent me some videos, what I thought were really good, some various videos that help. When the book doesn't help, you can look at the videos, and I hope you do more of those because you can get right down to explaining. I've seen some of the videos that you made, and you've done a good job. So I hope your pay raise.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and your kickback's in the mail. Thanks, Elijah. Is there anybody else that has any questions or discussion points they want to bring up? Maybe things that ask the experts kind of stuff.
Adam, I have a question. This is Jim Riley.
Hi, Jim.
Do I need a full-time internet connection with your software, or can I just have a studio-to-studio arrangement?
The way that our licensing system works, Jim, is that your machines need to be able to call home at least once every 30 days, which means they need to be able to see the internet. If you are looking for a solution that circumvents that, feel free to reach out to our support department through our ticket system. I believe we have a solution for that, but I'm not 100%. But that's becoming more and more of an issue, especially when we're dealing with customers who have corporate-based IT that doesn't like to have things open to the internet. What's your specific situation there in terms of machines being able to see the outside world?
We're affiliated with a university,
mm-hmm.
and they are very protective of what sort of internet access there is and who can see in, and so they're a tough sell when I bring up the possibility of for tech support or something to have someone from outside be able to access the internet. So
well, we actually have sorry to cut you off there, Jim, but we actually have a customer from the Beasley Group right now who we're working with, who's one of our logger customers, who is having a similar issue with licensing. And even though their computer is supposed to be wide open to the outside world on port 80, we're still having troubles getting a response back from our licensing system. So our licensing is handled by a third party. They're called Software Key. They've been fantastic to work with, and we are working with them to see if we can find a solution that would be suitable for customers that can't get that response back, that ping back from the licensing server.
Secondly, how transferable would my music library be into new software of yours?
Very.
You have preloaded music libraries?
We do. We offer libraries. That's something that's one of Ron's specialties. So you can definitely get in touch with Ron, and he'll give you an idea of what we have available, both compressed and uncompressed. Our wave library is massive and covers, dozens of potential formats. In terms of converting audio from one system to another, because we have worked with everybody in the business, and because we really try to have a good working relationship with all of the other manufacturers and all of the other software companies out there, there's really not much that we can't move. There are some sticky ones depending on the age of the system. We've had some problems with some DCS systems, some old DCS systems. We've had some problems with some older Aracus systems, but for the most part, we're able to convert the audio and maintain most of the metadata.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
No worries.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Michael.
And thanks for getting me in here. Sorry, I'm coming in late. Just getting my system up and running. And before I hook it up to the internet, do you have some suggestions about either creating firewalls or protecting it against hackers and things like that as far as security?
Well, I mean, we're a big fan of Windows Defender. We find that antivirus and anti-malware software that's running, 24/7 and doing checks can slow down the efficiency of a computer. But we do leave that up to the user. We don't recommend running virus software, especially on an on-air machine, because the on-air machine has a very specific purpose, and there's generally not a lot of throughput on that machine in terms of access to the internet. However, on any other device within your network, certainly if it's a production machine or anything that the public has access to, and by the public I mean your users, your employees. But we also just recommend making sure that your firewall is protected, your ports are protected. We do all of our secure connections from the outside world into any part of our machines through VPNs. So if you're using our remote voice tracker, our IVT program, then we're going to make sure that there's an encrypted VPN in place. Same goes for our multi-market idea, where we're going to be transferring files from place to place. That's all going to be protected within an encrypted VPN. And then the last step of defense is to air gap some of your systems. Yes, as I said, we do need to speak to a licensing server once at least every 30 days. But if you are looking to make sure that you are fully protected, you can air gap your transmitter site, or air gap your sort of standby studio, and do manual backups. I know that many people on this call have had to deal with ransomware. One hellish story in particular is from our friend Ron Comden. And Ron, maybe you could give us an idea of what you guys have done at Durham to sort of prevent this happening again, and how you've changed the way that you do things.
Well, I guess the biggest thing that we did is tightened up security all the way around, in every aspect of how we do things. We also, consistently back up on a daily basis here in our studio, but we also back up to a secure cloud storage site with a product called Beam, which is a very good backup system. But generally, you still have to be vigilant every day. I mean, we look at our routers on a daily basis, and we see how much traffic is being banged away, like thousands of people trying to hack into us every day. And you're only as good as your last update on these things. So, updates on Windows, but updates on everything, all your hardware. If there's an update for it, you should be keeping it as up to date as possible. That's about where it is for us.
And one of the things that the story that I like to tell when I talk about what happened to our friends at Durham Radio with a ransomware attack is twofold. You can't avoid having all of your buildings connected. You can't avoid having, if you want to be able to monitor things at different sites, if you want to be able to share content in between, you can't have everything completely disconnected. But they got very lucky because they had a server that had been taken offline within, I think it was 6 months of the attack, that just happened to have their entire audio library. And you know, they picked it up off the floor and pulled the hard drive out of it. And even though it was 6 months behind, at least they hadn't lost everything, and they were able to get back up and running. So, you know, offsite backups, secure cloud backups that are in fact air gapped, simply because of the nature of cloud backups is the way to go. It's really difficult to prevent these attacks. When something gets into your network, it's getting in whether you want it to or not. This isn't somebody firestorming your router. This isn't somebody trying to port exploit. This is somebody in your organization who opens an email and clicks on a link that they shouldn't click on. You know, and it's the user aspect of it that makes it really difficult. So the key to it is lots of backups and protecting your data as best you can. Computers can be replaced, operating systems can be reinstalled, even, you know, automation software can quickly be reinstalled. But it's that data that you need to protect.
Yeah, Adam, Michael is going to be pushing audio. He's doing internet station, so he's pushing audio as well as metadata out. So he's necessarily going to be talking to the outside world. So I think that's particularly interesting for him.
Well, and we try to, you know, again, we try to make sure that we're only going in one direction unless we absolutely have to. And we just try to use standard ports. You know, we use the ports that are already open. We're not going to ask you to start punching holes in your firewall for a port for this and a port for that and a port for something else. You know, we know how dangerous a process that is. And again, if you're transmitting this data from one part of your network to another, you know, for instance, metadata, if you're sending that to an RDS encoder, then, you know, make sure that those are both on the same secure VPN. So I hope that covers that and answers that question. While we're on that topic, talking about hardware, and with the pending demise of Windows 10, I think it's important to have a conversation about hardware, and something that again gets overlooked when people are buying systems. Systems don't last forever. You know, again, those of us with all the gray hair who have lots of experience in this business can tell you that, yeah, there were systems built in the 60s and 70s. There were pieces of hardware built back then that lasted for 30 plus years. You know, I think the oldest console I ever decommissioned was built by McCurdy, and it lasted 47 years. Now, it had lots of maintenance along the way, but the maintenance was relatively simple. But, you know, computers don't do that. Modern equipment doesn't do that. It's not built to do that. So this is why you need to plan for obsolescence. You need to plan for replacement, and you need to start a replacement cycle now with your initial purchase, as opposed to trying to, you know, replace everything all at once 5 years from now, 7 years from now, when the system suddenly becomes obsolete. We try to make sure that our systems are light on resources, light on hardware. We're not asking for giant servers. We're not asking you to put in $3,000 workstations. We make sure that the software is able to run on something that's small and compact and easy enough to be able to replace that edge unit if something goes wrong with it. And that's where we get into, you know, centralizing and warehousing data on servers, cloud-based platforms. But it's really critical to make sure that you're looking at your hardware now, and what the life cycle of that hardware is going to be, and what your budget's going to be to replace that down the road. It happens all the time. And even when I was in the position of having to be responsible for an automation system at a group of stations, I was bad about not staying on top of the life cycle of hardware and running it to its absolute, you know, end, and then having to scramble around and try and find some way to replace it and put it back on the air. So very important to keep an eye on your hardware. Any other questions? Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll ask a few.
Sure, go ahead. Hi, Sean.
Hey, Adam. So I've done some work for WLEW the last few years. It's pretty much the only radio I dabbled in, and I'd like to get them to replace their music library. There's a lot of recorded from YouTube music, and they can't understand why I can't make their audio processing loud and clean. Maybe you guys could suggest some talking points on moving someone to purchasing a new music library from Ron.
Well, I mean, you already pointed out two of them. Number one is, you know, it's old and probably sounds like dirt. and it's hard to make the end product sound good when, garbage in, garbage out. That was the expression that we got taught, even way back in college, so I think those are 2 points, but I'll let Ron field the rest of that because he is our resident musicologist.
Yes, I do. We have gathered a very, very nice collection of music. We have jazz, we have rock, we've got classic hits, we've got a gorgeous R&B library. This is real R&B from the 60s right up to current. So everything we have is up to current, let's say 2022, because now you can subscribe and get music virtually from all the providers for free. So we don't really go beyond 2022, but everything is WAV. Everything has album information. It has artist information and title. So everything, you look really good on the internet. It's all proper font, uppercase, lowercase, and the sounds are all pure wave. And we have everything country, you name it. If anybody's interested, just write Ron at DJB Radio.
Oh, you muted Ron.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh my gosh! Sorry.
Or Adam muted you.
Okay, somebody did.
That might have been me. Sorry, me and my itchy trigger finger.
The songs are around 35 cents. Then you get around 3,000 titles of every genre. All right.
I'll let Rick know, and maybe he can budget for next year or something to work at that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Listen, Sean, you don't have to replace everything all at once. Obviously we sell things as libraries, but if you've got a specific group of songs that you play on a regular basis, or a specific sound or a specific style, start there and work that way. Again, from my past life, we decided that we were going to make the transition from compressed audio and God knows how many sources all of those songs came from for so many different years, from so many different places. And we found it difficult to find a lot of the tracks in an uncompressed format without sending people into their own CD collections. So, we have a lot of things available that you're not going to find commercially, and you're certainly not going to find at a place like iTunes. So yeah, please let us know what you're looking for, and we'll make you a deal. Okay, and then next question is, how do you guys feel about the Pura RDS encoders? Have you worked okay with them? Yeah, from our standpoint, we're outputting a file. We're outputting an XML file, or we're sending out an IP string of data. So as long as it uses standard communication, I know they're very popular because they're less expensive than some of the other brands on the market. I don't see any reason why we couldn't talk to one. And worst case scenario, we may just have to put a piece of translator software in between. Yeah, okay. I've been using DSM-32, but I've had pretty good luck. And then the last question, I'm assuming at this point that almost everything you guys would sell would be with an audio over IP software driver, and that you don't play much with physical audio cards anymore. You'd be surprised. Audio over IP obviously has taken over a lot of the marketplace. Anybody who's had to replace hardware has found that the best way to future-proof their systems is to put in an AOIP system. And AOIP has been on the market now. We're looking at 25 years, I think, since Axia first dropped Livewire on us. And certainly 20 years since Wheatstone brought WheatNet IP to the forefront. But there are still demands for physical devices. Elijah, who was on with us earlier there, says he's found some interesting things on Amazon that he's tried out. We've been working with Focusrite in terms of USB interfaces, although we're having some issues with their drivers. And ASI cards, good old Audio Science. Yeah. We've had a relationship with Rick for many, many, many years, and we still sell a lot of ASI cards. It's amazing. Some of the ASI cards out there, I stopped counting, but I'm betting 12 years plus. And then, they still work, and as long as ASI keeps their drivers up to date, then the cards themselves are going to continue to work. And if we can talk to their driver, then we can make it work for you. All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. No worries. Thanks for joining us today. Anybody else want to jump in on the chat here?
Yeah, don't forget about Dante. It's not a tethered solution like Axia or Wheatstone, but it's a good AOIP choice.
Yeah, and AES 67 didn't take off quite the way that people expected it to, or that those who were involved in its rollout wanted it to. Part of that is because it became complicated, and there wasn't a lot of work done to create auto discovery programs. It really was a protocol as opposed to a system. But there are many devices out there that are either Dante or AES 67 ready, that can talk to each other, or can simply talk to other core systems, and it certainly cuts down on your cost if you're going to go that direction. Anybody else want to jump in while we're here? Okay, well, we've gotten to our 1 hour mark. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
From my standpoint, it's good to see a lot of faces that people that I've talked with. So thank you for coming. Appreciate that. And let us know what you'd like to see in the future.
Yeah, and this we're hoping will be the first of many sort of open discussions that we can have about automation in general. I mean, we don't claim to be the experts on everything, but we have a lot of years of experience in a lot of different places, that we not only bake into our software, but we're happy to share with everybody. We're not just here to sell stuff. We're here to make life easier for everybody and share our decades of knowledge. One of the things that I was talking to Ron about yesterday, and maybe I'll get him to comment on that now, just as a way to wrap things up. Ron, can you give us some perspective of what's changed, but what really hasn't changed in terms of automation over the last 40 years?
What has changed is the lack of technicians. God bless you guys for being there as technical people, but we seem the schools are closing, and more IT people are joining us, and we're glad to have you guys come on board. I think anyone in IT, like I just met Sean, and we had Sean Richardson there just the other day, and he has a great feeling for working in broadcasting, and he comes with a great IT background. So we need guys like yourselves greatly in our industry. That is what has been the major change. Because anytime we sell a system these days, our first question is, do you have a site champ? And the question is, what is a site champ? There's no one there interested in the system, but they have to put one in because what they have is out of date and doesn't work anymore. So encourage people to IT to look at broadcasting, and hopefully we can improve that situation. Otherwise, it's a great industry to be in. It's my 42nd year, and I'm having a ball. Trust me, guys. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ron. I would also be remiss if I didn't give a big thank you to a couple of our other team members who are on the call with us here today. Jim King, who straddles the line between support, integration, and sales. Takes care of a lot of our DJB Radio customers. Jeff Beck is also with us, who is sort of becoming our guru for web and social and that kind of stuff, as well as our licensing expert and our top support person for our studio products. So thanks to both of you for being here and supporting us. Thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to listen to us drone on here. I hope that if nothing else, that we've been able to inspire a bit of conversation. Get people thinking about things a little bit differently. That's always kind of my goal, is to get people thinking about ways to make automation work better for them. Our entire line of product is available on our website. Feel free to go to djbradio.com and learn more. We have videos, we have tutorials, and we have lots of things to read. And to Elijah's point, yes, our manuals have fallen behind a little bit, but we're doing our best to try and catch up on that. However, we think that YouTube videos are probably where we're going to go in the future for that. So if you have any further questions about the software, about pricing, any of that sort of stuff, you're going to want to talk to either one of the Jims or Mr. Paley himself. If you have any technical questions, feel free to reach out to our tech team through our ticket system, or you can email support@djbradio.com. Thank you again.
Another session like this? You're going to do another session like this soon?
Yeah, Elijah, we will. We'll try to make it a little more specific to a certain topic, I think, as opposed to it just being a broad general conversation. One of the things that we're going to try to do this year is to be a little more visible, not only with our customers, but with everybody in the industry in general, again, to share our wisdom. So if anybody has any ideas for topics that they'd like us to cover, then feel free to bring those to us, Mr. Paley.
We next thing will be about streaming, Alexa, smartphones, because 60% of our listeners are using those devices now. So I think our next meeting should be on that. And I also want to put in a plug. We're going to be showing, Jim Hammond will be showing on our behalf at NRB in Dallas.
Grapevine, actually. Grapevine, Texas. Yes.
Grapevine, yes. That's coming up in February. And we're also in a very nice position. They got us right in the middle of the hall at NAB in April. We'll have key positions right next door to RCS and Wide Orbit and all the other guys. Orban, and we're on that same walkway. So anybody coming to NAB, make sure you come and see, because we have more surprises for you shortly. Adam?
We sure do. We sure do, Ron. Yeah, our
Dave
development.
Cook. Dave Cook. We have to thank Dave Cook.
Yes, Dave Cook, our chief technician, our chief support technician, and the person that you guys probably talk to the most. Dave is busy manning the phones right now and wasn't able to join us today. So thanks to Dave for all of his hard work, and anybody else who works with us who we may have overlooked. It was not personal or deliberate. We have some great new development coming up this year. We're going to continue to build more features and more ease of use things into our DJB ZONE Wide Area product. Spider and Logger are refreshed and will be put out on the market. Get in touch with us once you see some information about that, about getting an upgrade. We're trying to find new and interesting ways that we can use Studio. We got a couple of neat ideas that might involve direct codec from Studio into our automation products. So those are kind of the places that we're going. Do make sure to sign up for our mailing list. You can do that through our website if you go through the contact page, if you're not already on our mailing list. And please follow us on social, whatever your favorite platform is. Follow us there, and we'll be posting as we go throughout the year. 2025 is the year of DJB, so we look forward to having more input from you and having a chance to chat with you more, hopefully in person at a show near you. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. I really
Adam,
appreciate it. Yep.
Sorry, I just noticed Blake has joined us here, and I know, Blake, you've just come in a little bit late, and I just wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to maybe ask any questions. I know you're sort of one of the latest users of DJB Radio, as I've helped set you up, and using Axia as well. So I just wanted to quickly see if there was anything that you had that you wanted to ask everybody about, or.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, and it's been, a great start for a startup radio station to have the support that I've had from, DJB and you and Ron and Jim. Has been just second to none, and made it seamless for us to get going here at KAPK. I do have a list of questions somewhere. I don't have it on me. I apologize. I messed up the time zones on this, being the dang mountain time zone. So. I've just from my experience from a flow here at the studio, we're still finding our footing, but the automation and the production that we've gotten out of DJB has allowed us to not only get on air, but now produce programs. We do our morning show, with it with the automation system, our midday show. My drive home guy, loves the ease that he can work with within DJB Radio, because he's a dinosaur in the radio industry. I mean, coming from the 50s, 60s, 70s era when you're truly spinning the disc. So he enjoys the automation there, and makes it easier on him just to be the DJ. But I'm sure I'll have a list of questions here, or get with you in the future on that.
Sure,
Well, Blake,
you can
we're
just
here to
email those.
Yeah, we're here to answer those questions. Go ahead and email us, hit us up on our ticket system, which you can find through our website. And obviously you can pick up the phone and call us 9 to 5 Eastern and ask for any one of us, and we'll help you out. Welcome, Blake. Thank you for joining us, even though it was a tad late. The rest of this presentation will be put up on our YouTube channel sometime in the very near future, so you'll be able to see what you missed. Okay, guys, thank you again. I really do appreciate it. Stay in touch, follow us on social. Get on our mailing list, and we will stay in touch with everybody. Thank you for your time today, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.